The reason why I would use the pitch shifting tool is the second function it offers, and that is over here. So the second function gives you an envelope, and that I think is really cool because you can change the pitch over time depending on that graph you create yourself here in this window. So that works really easy. You see there is a line here, and it has a starting point and at the beginning of the event, and an end point here at the end of the event. And depending on how you draw this line, the pitch will change over time, but not constantly if you don't want it, but depending on the curve you draw in here, like so. And that is really cool. Right now the effect is not very big because I have just one half step activated. So here you can activate how many half steps you want to have in your window. And if I change this to, let's say, 5 half steps, the effect will be way more obvious, and with that you can do really cool effects for a situation where you don't want it to sound natural. So if you want to change the pitch of any event very drastically, this would be a cool thing to do for sound design or electronic music, for example. You can change this line like you want. You just click anywhere on the line and you get a new dot, and then you take the dot and drag it around. And if you want more dots, you just click anywhere and drag it. If you have too many dots or you want to remove one of these, you just take it and pull it out of the window and it will just vanish. So there's different ways of using this window. It has 3 modes. The first one is just the mode that I'm using, and it gives you a straight line from one point to the next. If you don't want this hard edges on the end, then you should use one of these. I think they are called spline interpolation or something like that. And there is 2 different modes. The first mode gives you a curve, so there are no edges, hard edges anymore. But if you click anywhere and you create a dot and you move it, you can see that the rest of the curve also changes its outlook depending on where you move your point. That means the points are like anchors, and if you move one of these, the rest of the curve will follow depending on the anchor point. If you don't want that, you use the damped curve, and that means basically not always to 100%, but most of the time. That means if I create a point and move it around, the rest of my curve will basically stay as it was before. So you see, if I move it here in the back, the rest basically stays like it is. And with this function, I think you can get really creative, and that is a fun thing you can do with the transposing tool that is very different from the one in the info line. The third function that is used for pitch shifting is the project root function. And it goes like this. Here in your upper toolbar, you have, if you have it activated over here, so if you click on your cogwheel and you activate the root of your project, then you get this little window here. And if you click on the drop down, you can activate a root node for your whole project. And what would you need that for? So if you click on an event, then you can also give a root to that event. And what now happens is, if I put in a root for my whole project, then all the events with a root node of itself will follow the project key. So right now I have C as my project key and also C as my event key. So nothing happens. If I change my project key to D, you see, there is still nothing happening. And that is because you can tell every track if it should follow the project key or not. So if I now go here to my info line and change it to follow the global transposition, then you see it changed the sound of my event one step up from C, where it was before, to D. So right now I have no advantage of this function whatsoever. But think of this. You don't have just one event with one single node in your project. You have a lot of events and instruments, and in the end you want them to follow your ideas all at the same time. You don't want to go to hundreds of events and say, well, transpose it, don't transpose it a half step or not. You want your song to be in one key, and if you need it a half step down or up, then you can do so with a single click, which is really cool, especially if you're working on composition or pre-productions. So that is how you can use this transposing function. One thing you have to keep in mind, look at this. Right now, for explaining reasons, I copied the event somewhere else. And check this, what happens is, if I use don't follow my global transposition, you get this tiny symbol up here in the corner. And you see all of my events suddenly got the same status. So if I select one of it and say follow, the others turn to follow as well, because they all are like deriving from the same event in the first place. So if you have a track and you have copied one of your events from here over there and it's out of your mind and you're going here to the front and, well, you make changes here like so, then keep in mind that it will affect the other events that you copied from the first one. It will affect these as well. The last thing you can do if you want to transpose things in your project, you can use a transposing track, and that is really easy to use. You get this track here, and whenever you draw in an event, which goes really easy. Right now I'm using my Alt or Option key to quick change my mouse into a pen. And if you use the pen and click in your transposing track, an transposing event appears. And this one has a tiny number. And if you type in the number of half steps you want the transposing track to transpose your tune, then you see these events appear and they go for as long as your project goes. So if you type in transpose 3 half steps up, then it will just go on like for your whole track, unless you go somewhere else and type in something different. You can also see it visually. You see inside my events there is a darker part and it shows, oh, it just goes 1 half step up, and here 2 and 3, and here the darker part shows 4 half steps down. So I can also see what my transposing track does. Plus, if you have activated your info line up here, it will always show where does the transposing event start. So at bar 13, the first beat of it, and it transposes 4 half steps down. And I click this event and it shows it starts at bar 3, first beat, and transposes 2 half steps up. So right now, if I listen to my track, you can hear again nothing happens. Why is that? I undid the follow. And that's it. It's really easy. Sometimes you wanna use another really cool trick for the transposing track, because let's say you started your event and then your singer says, well, can you just go a half step or a full step up or down because it's better for me to sing. Then you have your whole project done and you don't want to go to every single event and type in a key for it. So what you can do is you right click here on your transposition track and say, give all of my events that don't have a root node the same root node as here for my project, like so. And then you don't have to go to every single event and change it. So mine already had one, so it didn't change. So in your project where you have several different events and you don't want to spend the next 15 minutes to type in the root nodes for every event or track itself, then you can use this function to do it with one single click. Then all your events or tracks will have a root node, and if you say follow on your track, then your transposing track will transpose all the events in the key that you put in here. So that's basically what I wanted to say in this video. I hope you got some helpful information. I know there is another really big thing for transposing that is and pitch shifting that is very audio, but I already made videos about that, so I'm not gonna talk about that again. If you like this, check out some of the other videos and subscribe to my channel.